Picture this, the greatest sporting event in human history. 104 matches, 48 nations, the most expensive, most ambitious, most talked about World Cup ever staged. And in a stadium that holds 70,000 people, 600 fans showed up. Not 6,000, not 600,000, 600. That happened last summer in Orlando, Florida, a FIFA tournament in one of the exact same venues scheduled to host the 2026 World Cup. Journalist Maher Mizahi was there, and he posted on social media that 97 fans were present just before kickoff. 97. You've been to school assemblies with better turnout. FIFA's official number was 3,412. Photographers documented entire sections of the stadium completely empty. The match was delayed by a storm. Nobody outside those 600 people noticed. That was the warning sign. It was loud, it was documented, it was impossible to ignore. And yet here we are, 35 days from the opening kickoff of the actual World Cup, and the same problems, empty seats, fans locked out, prices that have made attending a group stage match feel like financing a small car, are playing out again. Bigger, louder, with billions of dollars and the reputation of football's governing body on the line. This is the story nobody at FIFA wants told this clearly. So, let's tell it. Before we do, real quick, if you've been watching this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I need you to do something. Go find that subscribe button. It's red, it's right there, it's basically begging you at this point. Click it, because if you leave this video without subscribing and then wonder later why you missed the next FIFA bombshell, that's on you. We'll be here, the button will be here. Don't make it awkward between you and the button. Subscribed? Good. Now, let's get into why the 2026 World Cup is turning into something nobody planned for. The attendance crisis didn't start this year. It didn't start with the 2026 ticket prices or the hotel cancellations. It started in the summer of 2024 at the Copa America, and the warning it gave was so clear that ignoring it required genuine determination. The Copa America was held in the United States in June and July of 2024. It was explicitly positioned as a dry run, a test, a chance to prove that American football culture had matured enough to fill these enormous NFL stadiums with noise and color and the kind of atmosphere that defines a tournament. And for the big games, it worked. Argentina in a sold-out stadium. Brazil, full house. The genuine stars drew the genuine crowds. But here's what didn't get talked about enough. The United States played Bolivia in their group opener at the 80,000 capacity AT&T Stadium in Dallas, and fewer than 48,000 fans turned up. The host nation, their own stadium, their own tournament. 32,000 empty seats. They failed to sell out their second game as well, with 59,145 fans inside the 71,000-seat Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, one of the most storied venues in American sport, there were swaths of empty seats for matches that didn't involve the top teams. It was a stark contrast to the ongoing European Championship in Germany, where games averaged 50,000 spectators per game in the group stage, and matches were played in packed arenas throughout. The lesson was there. The same venues, the same dynamic, the same pattern of top teams drawing full houses while everyone else played in half-empty stadiums. The Copa America told the story in 2024. FIFA looked at it and decided to go ahead with the same structure, the same venues, and ticket prices that made Copa America look like a bargain. Then came the Club World Cup last summer, June and July 2025. 32 clubs, 48 group stage matches, and over 1 million empty seats. Only 56.7% of publicly listed stadium capacity was filled during the group stage. In Orlando, fewer than 600 people showed up to watch South Korea's Ilsan face South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns. In Cincinnati, games drew just 5,282 and 8,239 spectators. These are not rounding errors. These are not bad weather nights. These are structural attendance failures at the same venues that are supposed to host the World Cup in 5 weeks. At MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the site of the World Cup final, just 44.9% of seats were occupied across 5 matches during the Club World Cup group stage. The Rose Bowl in Pasadena, which hosted the 1994 World Cup final, was at 50%, Atlanta at 44.3%, Seattle at 52%. Half empty. The venue hosting the World Cup final, half empty, for games featuring Real Madrid, Manchester City, and Paris Saint-Germain. And then in February 2026, something happened that made all of those numbers feel almost quaint. The United States men's national team, the host nation, 5 months before their own World Cup, played at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles for the CONCACAF Nations League. Both U.S. games at SoFi's 70,000-seat stadium were remarkably empty, so empty that CONCACAF simply didn't report attendance figures. The U.S. MNT website listed attendance for both matches as TBD. Think about the optics of that. Your own football confederation declining to publish the attendance numbers for your home matches because the actual figures would be too embarrassing to share publicly. Mauricio Pochettino, the USMNT's own coach, stood at the press conference and said, "If we would be today in this situation in 1 year time, for sure I will tell you, Houston, we have a problem." Houston, one of the World Cup host cities, has a problem. Now, let's look at what's actually keeping fans away, because the empty seats aren't a mystery. The reasons are documented, specific, and getting worse with every week that passes. The first reason is price, and not just high prices, prices that have abandoned any connection to what the market can actually bear. When FIFA put tickets on sale for the USA versus Paraguay opening match, they priced it as the third most expensive game in the entire tournament, behind the final and one semifinal. Category 1 seats for a group stage match against Paraguay were listed at $2,730. Category 2 at nearly $2,000. Category 3 over $1,000 for a group stage match against Paraguay. Some fans in the US and around the world are so unhappy with World Cup ticket prices that they're deciding not to come at all, raising concerns across the travel industry. According to data reported before the tournament, only 40,934 tickets had been sold for the USA opener at SoFi Stadium, a venue with a World Cup capacity of 69,650. That's 30,000 empty seats for the host nation's opening match. And the resale market isn't fixing it. Some tickets for the USA opener are now going below face value on secondary platforms. In any previous World Cup, a host nation's opening match would have been reselling at multiples of the original price by this point in the build-up. The fact that they're going backwards tells you everything about the level of unmet demand at the current price point. One football finance professor in Liverpool, a man who has attended multiple World Cups and spends his professional life studying the economics of the sport, told NPR he won't be attending this one. The prices and the climate made it not worth it to him. When the people who study football finance for a living decide not to show up, the pricing strategy has failed. The second reason fans aren't coming is one that goes beyond money, and it's more complicated to fix. Some World Cup regulars are skipping matches hosted by the United States, voicing concerns about violent immigration crackdowns and visitor safety. A German supporter named Schwarzbach, who holds PMA superfan status with his national association, meaning he's qualified for discounted access to quarterfinal and semifinal matches, scored 2 tickets for $1,600 to the quarterfinal and semifinal matches. After seeing ICE raids and learning that the U.S. government is considering vetting visitors' social media activity from the last 5 years, he decided the trip wasn't worth the risk. He eventually declined the credit card transactions. A dedicated German football supporter, with tournament tickets already secured, who bought the tickets and then gave them back because he was frightened to travel to America. That is the reality of the environment around this World Cup. Calls to boycott the games have grown louder. There is no single coordinated boycott, but the cumulative effect of individual decisions made by fans across dozens of countries, each one calculating the cost, the risk, and the welcome they'll receive, is adding up to the same result as a boycott would produce. Empty seats, quiet atmospheres, stadiums that feel like they're hosting a corporate event rather than a global festival. One analyst described it bluntly. The soaring price of tickets means the stands will be filled with a particular kind of demographic. He suggested the World Cup might end up being a tournament for the 1%, full of very wealthy people who may never have been to a soccer game and who are there because it's like going to the Super Bowl or a show on Broadway. A very white audience, he said, as a consequence. That is not what a World Cup is supposed to be. A World Cup is supposed to be the Argentinian fan who saved for 3 years and flew 14 hours. The Senegalese supporter in the upper tier, draped in a flag, the loudest person in the stadium. The family from South Korea who booked their flights on the day their team qualified. The colors and the noise and the joy of humanity gathered around the football pitch from every corner of the earth. A World Cup for the 1% isn't a World Cup. It's a very expensive event in a very large building. Here's where things get even more interesting, because the empty stadium problem isn't uniform. It's specifically and significantly worse in American host cities than in Mexico and Canada. Mexico's group stage matches at the Azteca are expected to be sold out and thunderous. Canada's BMO field in Toronto is operating at near capacity for their matches. The fan festivals in both cities are overflowing. International fans who can't navigate the U.S. entry process or who simply don't want to are gravitating toward the co-hosts. And the gap isn't small. International tourism to the United States reportedly declined by around 5.4% in 2025, even as global tourism overall continued to grow during the same period. Fans are traveling, they're just traveling somewhere else. For the American hospitality industry that positioned itself for the greatest economic windfall in its history, this is a genuine crisis. Hotels that blocked rooms at premium rates for months have now released thousands of those rooms after FIFA canceled blocks across all 11 U.S. host cities. The rooms are back on the market, and in several cities, World Cup hotel rates are running below normal peak summer levels, the exact opposite of what the industry projected. New Jersey's governor has publicly stated that FIFA put $0 toward transporting World Cup fans, leaving the state facing $48 million in costs to host 8 matches, including the final. The state is subsidizing the most profitable sporting organization on earth, and still the seats aren't filling. Now, let's be honest about something, because this story has 2 sides. The knockout rounds are almost certainly going to be different. When the last 16 teams are left, the last 8, the final 4, those matches fill themselves. The drama brings the fans, regardless of price or climate or anything else. The semifinals at MetLife will be electric. The final will be watched by 5 billion people. The football at that stage will be extraordinary, and the atmosphere will reflect that. And there are real, genuine, beautiful stories already shaping shape in the parts of the tournament that are working. Mexico's opening night at the Azteca on June 11th is going to be one of the most memorable football moments in years. Canada experiencing their first ever World Cup matches on home soil is historically significant and emotionally charged. Iraq returning to the World Cup for the first time in 40 years. Haiti playing in their first tournament since 1974. These stories are real and they matter. But the group stage, the 2 weeks that set the tone, that fill the stadiums first, that tell the world whether this tournament has the soul it was promised to have, that is where the crisis is real. And as Pochettino said about the empty SoFi Stadium in February, if the situation is still the same when it counts, Houston, we have a problem. The warning signs were there in 2024 at Copa America. They were screaming in 2025 at the Club World Cup. They are showing up in ticket sales data and hotel booking numbers, and in the decisions of individual fans across Europe and South America who have looked at everything on the table and quietly decided to watch from their sofas instead. The 2026 World Cup is not collapsing. The matches will be played. The football will be exceptional. And by the time the final is played in East Rutherford on July 19th, much of what's unfolding right now in the group stage will feel like a distant memory. But if there are 30,000 empty seats at the USA opener, if the atmosphere in American stadiums in the first 2 weeks sounds like a library compared to what's happening in Mexico City and Toronto, if the image that travels around the world from the first fortnight of the greatest World Cup in history is of enormous half-filled NFL venues, that image will follow this tournament forever. FIFA has 35 days to close the gap. The ticket prices aren't coming down significantly. The visa policies aren't changing before June. The fans who made their decision aren't reversing it. What happens next will tell us something important, not just about this tournament, but about whether football's most ambitious expansion has produced the unstoppable global event it promised, or whether it produced something that was too big, too expensive, and too complicated for the fans who were supposed to be at the center of it. So here's what I want to know. Are you going to the 2026 World Cup? And if you're not, is it the prices, the logistics, or something else that made the decision for you? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this is the kind of coverage that makes you understand football better, subscribe, share this video, and stay with us for every twist between now and the final whistle in July. This story is still developing, and as always, football never stays quiet for long. See you in the next one.